Olivia Sprinkel is a writer inspired by the natural world. In 2019, she heard the call of the trees to go on a journey to learn how to listen to them and what they have to communicate in this time of climate crisis. The resulting book, To Hear the Trees Speak, Adventures in Listening, was published in May 2025. Congratulations. It tells her story of listening to 10 trees around the world, from the banyan to the giant sequoia. Olivia's poetry has been published in numerous anthologies, including an ecopoetry collection. She is trained in ecotherapy with the Tariki Trust and also with the Animas Valley Institute in the United States. Olivia is a keen photographer of plants, and her artwork has been exhibited in a group show in Mill Valley, California. She is half Finnish, half American, and now lives in East Sussex, UK. Her website is oliviasprinkel.com, and her Instagram is @oliviasprinkel. Welcome.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you all for joining. It's really exciting to see so many people curious about the wisdom of plants and what we can learn from them, and joining really from all over the world. It's an honor and a responsibility to share a few words on what plant communication means and why it might be one of the most important things we can relearn right now. I think one of the beautiful things about plant communication is that it takes different forms for different people. So I'm going to be sharing some personal reflections on the topic based on my experiences of learning to listen to the trees, which I write about in To Hear the Trees Speak. I'd like to begin by recognizing our connection with the plants and with each other, and begin with a very short grounding exercise to help us arrive together and set aside what has been going on in our day so far. So I'd invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. And simply feel your breath as you inhale and exhale. Feel your feet on the earth, on the ground, of the floor of the building you are in, and feel this connection traveling deep underground, through soil, through rock. And feel it spread outwards through the soil to meet the roots of the plants and the mycorrhizal networks underground connecting the plants, and continuing to spread out and maybe meeting the connections of other people on this call. And as we breathe in this connection and breathe it out into the air, which also connects us all and is the same air breathed by the plants and which gives life to us all. Take another breath in and out, and then begin to gently open your eyes if they're closed and look around where you are and connect with the people you can see on screen. And notice how you feel in your body. So thank you for taking a moment to do that. And I felt that it was important to start here because there's going to be lots of wise words shared today, which is necessary because of how humans communicate in forums like these. And it's critical that we learn from each other and grow this body of knowledge. At the same time, slowing down and being present is an answer to why plant communication is important. We need to slow down to listen to the answers that the plants want to share. And the act of slowing down and listening is an answer in itself. Our default state of being in Western societies is one of separateness from each other and from the natural world that we're part of. And recognizing that we can be in communication with plants, that there are different ways of knowing beyond the human, is one way we can come back into that connection. Slowing down, listening, paying attention, feeling the wonder of the world, of being in relationship with a world that we recognize as being animate and sentient, which is another subject and not an object, is one answer in itself to the multiple crises that we face. Imagine if everyone wanted to and was able to slow down and listen to the plants. The world would be very different to the world we live in right now. The phrase plant communication is often used to mean communication between the plants themselves. And today we're focused on communications between plants and humans. Our contemporary society is an outlier in not recognizing plant-human communications as part of our everyday lived culture and experience. So I believe we all have a role to play in helping normalize this communication by talking about our experiences. And I'm sure the discussions today will provide plenty of material. When we think of human communication, because of human biases, we often think about words because this is how we communicate with each other. But energy is an important part of how we communicate as well. There are some statistics that say that 93% of communication is nonverbal. And while that may or may not be true, it does point to the importance of communication beyond the nonverbal, even in humans. We pick up on each other's energy, and so we can with the energy of plants, if we choose to listen. We pick up on the feeling of their communication. There's a Celtic word to describe the feeling of being in the presence of the trees, which I hope I'm somewhere near in terms of pronunciation, so apologies to any Celtic speakers on the call, but I think it's something like mochio, and it's a feeling of energy that is felt in the chest. It reassured me to learn that this feeling of the presence of the trees has been part of the Celtic culture, as it has of many other cultures, for generations. As we have lost the words for it and the ability to describe it, so we have lost that feeling as being part of our everyday culture. But it is still there to come back to if we so choose. Stephen Booner, author of Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm, wrote that one of the primary ways that we can open the doors of perception to the plant realm is to simply approach the natural world with an open heart and question of how does it feel? Asking the question, he says, will significantly increase both the visual and feeling inputs that are normally gated by the unconscious. Asking a plant how it feels and listening for the response is a very simple way to begin our communication with plants. One of the key things to know about plant communications is that it's simple, but with like many things, it doesn't mean that it's easy. I set out on my journey to listen to the trees, and I thought I had to learn how to do it. But what I found was that the learning is actually to let go of the usual blinkers in the way of how we look at and feel the world, to just be quiet and to feel whatever we feel or don't feel. And what we find is that some plants are shy. Some plants it takes time to build a relationship with. Some plants are chatty. And spending time with the plants, being quiet, builds our relationship not only with the plants and the broader world, but also with our own nature. Plant communication is about being in conversation with the world. And like any good conversation, it involves both listening and talking. Talking with the plants begins to open up a channel of communication and trust, and this can take different forms. It may start with asking with permission to work with them and listening for the answer. It may be about greeting them and praising the plants as you go for a walk, offering your gratitude for all of the gifts that they give us. It may be writing a poem to them and reading it aloud or singing. It may be asking a question on something you need help with. It may be asking the plants how we can help them. And sometimes we might feel the energy of a response, and we might be able to translate this into words or drawings or music or movement or ways of working with the plants. And sometimes the communication from the plants will come in visions or dreams. And I'd like to share with you an example of plant communication that I experienced in the Amazon basin in Ecuador, in the forest of the Kofan people. We were camping in the rainforest. I'd asked the shaman and chief of the Kofan people what advice he would give on listening to the forest. He said, feel the unseen, both the spiritual and the microscopic. That night, I wake up from a dream. I open my eyes. I feel I'm awake. Yet in front of me, I see white shapes, knobbly and gnarly, what could be a head. The shape appears to me to be the spirit of a tree. It has eyes and it's smoking a pipe. And this one spirit is joined to another, spreading out. I'm scared. I don't understand what I'm seeing. I've just woken up in the middle of the night and there's this spirit in front of me. But the spirit looks at me and reassures me that everything is okay. I just need to relax. It continues speaking. And then I'm moving into another world, seeing into a root network, a three-dimensional world there right in front of my eyes, one that I feel I can reach out and touch. I see a seed sprout, the shoot growing up in front of me, and a beetle scurries past in my view, and then the root network gradually fades. I'd had a glimpse into what is usually unseen, both spiritual and microscopic, a clear communication from the plant world about how we are all connected, plants and humans, and a bridge between the visible and the invisible. That morning, I shared with our guide what I had seen. The spirits of the forest came to visit you, he said. And this was especially poignant as the chief had shared how the spirits of the forest had been driven out of the forest that had been cut down further down the river. The spirits of the forest had been looking for a home. Tokapar Turner, in her book, Belonging, Remembering Ourselves Home, has written that dreaming is nature naturing through us, and that as we begin to learn to listen to our dreams, the sensitivity is what makes us more porous and multilingual, bringing us into conversation with the many languages of the world. And I just love that phrase about being in conversation with the many languages of the world. But we don't need to go to the rainforest to communicate with plants. The other day in my garden, I asked the plants what they wanted me to share about plant communication. It's for everyone, said the apple tree. That made sense. The apple tree is generous with her blossom and fruit. And then the rosemary bush chipped in to say, remember the role of women. I was grateful to Rosemary for reminding me of this. In many cultures, women are the keepers of knowledge and practices about plant communication. Sometimes they've been persecuted for it. I think about witches in the UK. And I think of the female scientists such as Monica Gagliano, who have sought to bring communication with plants into the scientific world and faced opposition from the largely male-led establishment. When I interviewed her for my book, she was clear that listening to the plants has enabled her to make the scientific breakthroughs she has on plant intelligence. And this is an example of why plant communication is so important. The plants will help us to see what we currently can't see, and in this way we can develop new solutions. This links to one of the other reasons why plant communication is important. We have to slow down to do it. It requires being rather than doing, and being embodied, and it can then help open our hearts and minds to different ways of understanding the world, which can lead to different ways of doing. It's important as it's about recentering plants as beings in themselves to respect, and that we can be in reciprocity with. And it can make us happier, not in a self-centered way, but because we see that we are just a small part of a wider web. There is a joy of being in the present moment as we listen to the plants, and the gratitude that comes from moments of connection. Why wouldn't we want to be in conversation with the world around us? It's a much richer, more fulfilling life, and one which points us to where we can best be of service. I'm so looking forward to hearing what the other speakers have to say, and I hope we can then all spread the word about plant communication and why it's so important. In the words of Mary Oliver, today as we listen and as we go out into the world to listen to the plants, pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olivia. That was such a beautiful welcoming into this space, and thank you for sharing your insights with us.